on three main things. Setting up a meeting with Congressman Norcross, who is a co-sponsor, setting up a meeting with MacArthur, who is not on board, and outreach to Republican community groups. So with regard to Norcross, it looks like we're going to be able to get a meeting, but it's not going to be until September.
Okay.
With regard to MacArthur, I think we're going to put that on hold a little bit until we figure out what our approach might be. We don't really know whether we're ready for that yet.
All right.
And as far as outreach to Republican community groups, Kristen sent email to several of them. And jump in if you want to.
Great.
Yeah,
you want to jump in?
This is what we talked about last time of trying to get some other voices at the table, so we have a true, kind of bipartisan effort.
Right.
So I didn't hear back from any of the, I think it was 4 groups I ended up contacting, so we're going to try again, but I'm going to adjust the message to not, because I said, like, let us know if you want to learn more and we can invite you to one of our meetings, but instead of the invite you went to one of our meetings, it was suggested you like smaller, a couple of us, a couple of them. I think that would help. So
yeah, like an informal. Let's go out for coffee and talk and see what.
Yeah. So I think that also helps. Nice. That'll help them get comfy, but also help us kind of screen people in a way. It'd be awkward to meet someone and say, "Well, never mind, we don't want you."
Yeah. And on a small scale, kind of practice our pitches and things.
Yeah.
So. And that way they may, if they really are interested, they may decide, well, the next step might be we go to their meeting on their territory and talk to their people, or maybe they might want to come to ours and we can leave it flexible and open-ended. So and you're okay with trying that?
Yeah, absolutely. Okay. And then we're just in general, if any of us thinks of like a conservative friend or coworker or someone we know, I don't know, just try to strike up a conversation. But I think that could be important for our message, especially when it comes time to try to meet with the MacArthurs of the world, that we have some of their voters, in the room.
I actually, there's a twice a month leaders call that Jen and I are on, and it was this past Monday, and Ben has run that, and one of the leaders from Minnesota, I want to say, was going to a farmers union meeting, which I thought, oh. So I searched online, and I couldn't find anything about any farmers union, but there is the New Jersey Farm Board. So that may be, and there are farms in Camden, Burlington, and Gloucester that are, named. So that may be a something,
The assumption is they're Republican.
Excuse me?
The assumption
they may or they may not be, right? So,
but it's certainly going to be a diverse group.
Right, exactly.
And of course, in Burlington County, and Gloucester County too, agriculture. I don't know so much about Camden County, but I know agriculture is a very big industry in Burlington County, and I suspect Gloucester as well. Maybe a little less so Camden. So I think that should be an interesting group to approach. It's probably very mixed. But I suspect more Republican leaning.
They did have good tomatoes.
Well,
everybody's got tomatoes.
And last time Kathy from Cherry Hill said she was going to look at local gun ranges, so I don't know. That was her other idea.
Unfortunately, Kathy just got in touch with me today. She has some personal issues going on right now, and she's going to have to step back, and she was not able to pursue getting further information about gun ranges or what have you, so that's not going to work for us right now unless somebody else can make that contact. Exactly, not from her. Somebody else can make that contact.
I don't know how I feel about gun ranges, but I'm willing to contact the farmers.
Well, we'll see. We'll just try to brainstorm some ideas and
we want
reach out.
Do you want me to try that?
Yeah. Well, we could. Why don't we wait until I'll try again with these clubs, because we also said we were going to wait until we try to really open the doors to other people as volunteers. And then one thing I heard with because I'm also involved in a Fair Districts project, a redistricting statewide thing, and what they have said is that you need your core group of volunteers, but then part of what we're going to do, you can correct me if I'm wrong, is going to have to be go out like 2 groups to educate them. So we're not ever necessarily going to ask them to be a part, but we're just going to go and try to educate.
Yes.
So that could be.
Yeah, and I think that makes a lot of sense.
Yeah.
That we tell them what it is and offer to present at one of their meetings. Just like these Republicans might want us to, the Republican groups might want us to do that. And,
Excuse me.
Bless.
I've got one little quick thing I think would be good to add in here. Ben forwarded me an email he received from someone. Let me pull it up right here. I've got it written down. He received a message from Myrna Schlanger. She attended the APA launch, and she's a member of the Camden County League of Women Voters.
Yep.
And she was asking Ben, she said that she was impressed by the launch, came away really, interested in it, and wanted to know if there was someone in the area who might speak at a meeting they're having on September 24th. So that could be a good opportunity for, a speaking gig, to a friendly group that would be good to ally with.
So
and
that's
potentially...
the group that we belong to, right, Kristen?
Yeah, that's our fall kickoff.
Yeah. I think that it was. I think Myrna she referred to that before. So I mean, absolutely, I'd be willing to speak. I have to make sure about the date.
What's the name of that group?
That's the League of Women Voters.
No,
Camden County chapter.
And
we're both members. In fact, are you going for moderator training on Saturday?
Yeah, we have a moderator training
Great.
Saturday. We have a that potluck next Wednesday.
Potluck I'm not going to be able to make.
So, and we'll, go ahead, Marie.
What I wanted to say was that we want to include other people, so let's let other people say, like, gee, they're interested in, anybody else interested in approaching, like maybe the Farm Bureau or the gun ranges or somebody else like really hepped up on interested in being able to speak,
You mean
at
someone
the meeting.
else right here now?
Well, yeah.
Okay, okay.
So.
I'd be fine contacting the gun ranges.
Okay, so
thanks.
Whenever
we're
thanks.
Up to that point, or if it's this,
well,
before our next meeting.
And you know what?
Remind me of your name.
Suzanne.
And you're
Liz. Yeah.
So let's just, what, I did bring the stickers again, and I'm really good at remembering names, so I'm just, and I've been dealing with the email,
really
so let's just go,
let's
just go around and,
I'm Suzanne Delario. I'm in Belmar.
I'm Cindy Molyneux.
And you're in
Haddon Heights.
Liz Becker, and I'm in Voorhees.
Joan DeVore, Voorhees.
Steve Miller, Haddonfield.
Barbara Miller, Haddonfield.
Kristen Pensacola.
Loretta Lynch, Martin. Barbara Blonsky, Mount Laurel.
And Marie is in Cherry Hill. So, all right, so Suzanne, you're interested in contacting the gun ranges? Okay, great. And Liz, do you want to do Farm Bureau? That'd be great.
Sure, I'll do Farm Bureau.
Okay.
I'll do anything.
And we've got Kristen.
And Kristen's working on the,
yep.
I can
that you can use
forward
as a
any,
basis.
let's see.
Did you have an email for them or some sort of contact information?
No, but I can tell you, I Googled them and it was the New Jersey Farm Bureau. That's what it came up as on Google, so. And they had some nice information, and I think there were there was definitely contact us, but I think that there was some county-wide breakdowns, because I remember the Duffields in Gloucester County were listed as like, for the women's group, she was the one, so, I think they'd be approachable.
So Susan, you said you tried the gun clubs?
So what you got for us, Azer?
Okay.
Well, first I was curious hearing from you, Marie, about the interaction it sounds like you had with Norcris and his chief of staff. How'd that go?
Okay, so we had talked about that a teeny little bit, but so I had called and got a very green intern on the phone who said he would forward the information by email and by call, and that was a week ago Tuesday. And then I didn't hear anything by Thursday, so I sent a reintroduction email directly to her. I had her email address, and also forwarded the candidate pledge, and didn't hear anything. And I was going to call again on Tuesday, but then I realized that she was going to be at a Cherry Hill Democratic meeting that I went to on Tuesday night. So I approached her, and she said, "Oh, I remember you." And she said, "Oh, I did get your email. I sent it to our scheduling person." So she said, but he doesn't know his schedule. There's no way we're going to be able to meet before recess is over. But in September, we can definitely put you guys on the calendar for September. So I said, okay.
Do we know what time
Hi,
chunk
Dana.
in September they're going to be around?
No, we don't know.
Okay.
So she promised to get back to me, and I will follow up with her, to make sure that I told her that it would be important for us to have a date to prepare for, and she was fine with that, and so that's kind of where that stood. And then I'll just fill you in really quickly. I was going to do this about Phil Murphy. I sent the sent the email, waited a little bit, sent the email again before the Murphy event last Thursday. Didn't get to talk to him at all.
What was the gist of your email?
Eric Kipnis was the one who got it. Again, introducing the American Promise, saying that we're interested in a 28th Amendment and what it's about, and we would be very interested in meeting with him and to see if he would support a candidate, if he would write a candidate, sign a candidate pledge to work with us on a state level. So Eric responded that they have a policy committee for their campaign, so it had to go through the policy committee, and that they would definitely be getting back to me.
He did mention when he spoke, though, I think he explicitly mentioned dealing with Citizens United when he spoke that night, did he not?
You know what, I don't remember.
I think
I don't remember, but
yeah.
He didn't discuss it in terms of a 28th Amendment.
Right.
So anyway, so there's a follow-up about that, what's going to happen.
So is the ball in their court now to turn?
Yeah, the ball's in their court, and I'll follow up with Eric. He's the campaign sort of muckety-muck that I spoke to.
Muckety-muck.
Yeah. Did you get this?
All right, fantastic.
Wim Godano about to get her as a candidate to get her position on it?
Not yet. I haven't. But that's something we should do too, because they're obviously
get a
absolutely
statement or not a statement.
Yeah, absolutely.
That's interesting.
Kim Guadagno is the lieutenant governor, who's the GOP nominee here in New Jersey. So that's what Kristen is suggesting.
That's a good idea.
Something, and I don't know which one it is.
Great. Well, sort of the rough agenda I've got planned is for us to go through that reading I've sent to you, and then to talk specifically about roles that we could take on during these meetings as we start to schedule them. Sort of describe what each role is. Hopefully, make these meetings seem more manageable, a little bit less intimidating if they even seem intimidating at all, and then talk some specific strategy on how our roles and what we'll say will differ depending on who we're in a meeting with. Does that sound all right to start?
Yeah.
Great. All right, so does everyone have the reading in front of them? The following story describes this process of moving from hopelessness to action.
Yes.
Great. So this is the story of Steve Volk, a volunteer with Results. Results is the group that Sam Daly Harris started. And the story is about what his group had to go through to reach out to a conservative member of Congress. Steve Volk, a longtime Results volunteer, is now a member of the staff of the Citizens Climate Lobby. Volk considered his greatest breakthrough with Results to be the conversion of Congressman Pat Swindall, a conservative Republican from Georgia. And I'm hoping we can just do this like we did it the first time, where we alternate paragraphs, the person to their left taking on the next one, and then we'll share our thoughts at the end.
Okay.
I'll start.
Does the person? Great. Thank you.
Okay, I'm sharing. You read that part, right? Here's the story?
Yeah.
Okay. Within weeks of Pat being sworn into office in January 1985, 4 Results volunteers, myself included, met with the congressman to request that he co-sponsor and vote for the famine relief in Ethiopia bill that had just been introduced in Congress. One of the volunteers who did not meet with us for a breakfast practice session before the meeting wound up being a loose cannon of sorts, insisting that we cut military spending to feed the hungry, putting the conservative Swindall in a defensive, so to speak, posture. Swindall made it clear that he didn't think the government should be involved in humanitarian aid, and it was something best left to the churches and private sector to take care of. A few weeks later, Pat was one of only 15 or so congresspersons out of more than 400 who ended up voting against the famine relief bill, and he made headlines giving a big speech about it on the floor of the House. Yeah.
To the left.
Thank you. Volk describes the felt shame he felt about his representative's vote. Have you ever seen the fans of a very bad sports team who sit in the stands with bags over their heads because they are ashamed to be seen rooting for such losers? If politics were a sport and we were sitting in the stands watching our congressman playing on the field, we would be wearing those bags on our heads over the shame we felt having Pat Swindall as a representative. Our thoughts and discussions about him were very negative, and we pretty much wrote him off, figuring our best chance was that maybe he would be defeated in 2 years.
But at the suggestion of results staff, we began to shift our thinking on Pat. There was this prayer that Newton Hightower had written to his member of Congress in Houston, Texas, Representative Bill Archer, someone who had similar difficulties with 2 years. He had similar difficulties with 2 years before. We adapted it to Swindle. We added Swindle's name, and it went,
Thank you, God, for Pat Swindle. We know that he is a good man who wants to do the right in the world. We know that he struggles with the same problems we do, closing our hearts to those who don't agree with us. There are no thoughts or feelings that he has had that we haven't had, and vice versa. We pray for all of us to have compassion for people in our country and far away, for rich and poor. We pray that Pat and we will be less frightened of each other. We pray our focus will be more to love and appreciate him and less to change him. Help us to remember that sharing love with the world is the highest contribution we can make and will lead to children being fed and the planet surviving. Forgive our righteousness and anger. Open our hearts and minds to find the next expression of love for Pat that he can receive.
Bob describes his group's breakthrough with Congressman Swindle, a breakthrough that was 2 years in the making. In order to have these breakthroughs, we must expand systems of volunteer support that allow citizens to be this persistent and committed to the breakthroughs. We eventually let go of our negative attitude towards Pat. Instead, we began to see him as a human being who, just like us, did not want to see people dying in the world from hunger and disease. All he needed was a little education. We began to show up at chat with Pat sessions around the district. There were other people with other issues in the congressional district who had bones to pick with Pat. We jokingly called the sessions Spat with Pat. But whenever they did, they didn't get anywhere. If anything, he stiffened his resolve and defended his position. When he got around to us, he was visibly relieved to see us greeting him with a handshake and a smile instead of a scowl and a sharp tongue. Then we could give him a 2-minute briefing on an issue such as iPad. And when we started talking about enabling a farmer to grow a ton of wheat for a year for the same amount of money it would cost to send a ton of wheat one time, well, he started listening a little closer. Gradually, a relationship of trust and respect was built.
In the spring of 1987, Results launched its microenterprise legislation with the Self-Sufficiency for the Poor Act. We decided it was time for an office visit with Pat, and 4 of us took off time from work to go see him. It was late afternoon, and we must have been a sight sitting in his waiting room with a TV and VCR to show him the Greenman Bank video. Earlier in the day, feeling very confident, I told Sarah that after Pat agreed to co-sponsor the legislation, I would ask him if we could write up an op-ed piece in support of the bill to appear under his name.
I don't know, Stephen, I think you'd be pushing it, Sarah responded. But I figured once he's committed to the bill, what do I have to lose? The 4 of us piled into a small office and set up the TV and tape. We all took a deep breath and the congressman joined us. Everyone spoke brilliantly in the meeting. As we were showing the video, Pat was sitting on a desk, knees drawn under his chin, staring intently at the screen. We told him about the tremendous opportunity of the Self-Sufficiency for the Poor Act and asked him to become a co-sponsor.
I'd be delighted to be a co-sponsor, he said. Sensing, I don't have my glasses. You want me to do it? Maybe you need to do it.
Sensing we were on a roll, I began to ask about the op-ed, but before the words were even formed in my mouth, the congressman spoke. You know, he said, I think it's important on an issue like this that we try to build public support in the media. I have a column that appears in the local paper, and I'm thinking maybe you can write a piece about this bill and we can run it in my column. Do you think you can do something like that?
I glanced over at Sarah with a smile so wide it hurt. Pat, I'd be more than happy to do it. I was now ghostwriting for a man who 2 years earlier voted against famine aid for Ethiopia. That experience changed me. I now see that everyone has the potential to do the right thing if given the opportunity. It's refreshing to see people as possibilities rather than obstacles.
Great. Thanks, you guys. And, I think that if you haven't gotten the gist of these readings, by the first one, this one certainly will hammer it home, but I think that last sentence sort of says it all, that, even if we're not coming to the political table from exactly the same spot as some of our elected officials, we can't bring that resentment and anger into the room, because it's going to be hard to cooperate and, forge a relationship. It's better to, be cooperative and achieve progress than to hold the moral high ground. And I think that's something that it's my understanding it's going to be, it should be easier with Congressman Norcross, and maybe a little bit more relevant when we meet with MacArthur. Is that right?
Mm-hmm. Yes.
That is our MacArthur. MacArthur's our Pat.
Does anyone want to share any thoughts they had during that reading? I know that was a little bit long, so thanks you guys for sticking through it.
The thing that occurred to me was the picture of them, and this is 1987, right? So how big was the television and the VCR? It probably,
That's true.
they probably had like a 25-pound VCR and a 30-pound television they had to carry in there. Now we have laptops and,
That's so true.
What I'm wondering is, what are some of the ways, like, I think one of the reasons they were able to get his attention was the concept of enabling a farmer to grow a ton of wheat for a year for the same amount of money it would cost to send a ton of wheat at one time. So I guess what I'm wondering is, what are some of the sentences that we could say to a MacArthur, to a conservative, that would show them in addition to saying that we know that 80% of the people support this, what are some of the words that we can use that might resonate more with him?
Yeah, I think that's the exact right question to be asking. How do we frame this to demonstrate that this really has historically been a bipartisan issue and something, very much rooted in conservative values. Mm-hmm. And I think, the main talking points are that, what we're fighting for is really a states' rights issue. If dark money is flowing into local elections from outside sources, you're reducing a person's individual liberty, you're infringing upon their personal sovereignty. And those are terms that conservatives understand and get and use themselves. But I think you're right, that's a huge part of what we're going to be preparing for, is how to phrase this in a way that appeals to someone like a MacArthur.
Go ahead, Suzanne.
Would it help if we knew what some of MacArthur's issues are that we could also speak positively about? Are there any issues that we feel similarly about? That we could start the conversation with that, or are we just, or is it completely, there's nothing? I don't know.
I don't know the answer to that, and I don't know how. I mean, I haven't researched him in depth. Do you feel like Barbara, like you have a depth of understanding of where he is on a range of issues?
Interesting. I've never thought about it that way.
So many
issues
really have to do with the 28th Amendment. It all is going to funnel to that. So if we could find out maybe. And I could also do research on that as well. I don't know.
I mean, it's going back to what he was like when he was young, where he went to school.
You see?
I'm sorry, I'm just thinking because maybe he was one way and something happened to him that changed him, and then if you can go back to something that he did back then, like when you were in college, I understand you were involved in X. This is what they believe in. Well, this is what this is.
I think, and tell me if I'm wrong, but if when we get to the other reading about roles in a meeting with a member of Congress, I think we're going to actually address this. So maybe we can hold off a little bit on that. But the other thing, I mean, you had said states' rights, and from what I think I posted a reading, and then actually Ben just sent us some others that we'll share about meeting with conservative members of Congress. I know preserving the American way of life is something else that appeals, really appeals to the conservative viewpoint.
These types of sentences that were said would ring true with Tom MacArthur.
Yeah.
The idea of personal liberty and states' rights.
You said that Ben sent something? Is it on our,
email?
An email?
He emailed them, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. So yeah, let's start looking through this sheet with the roles, and we'll naturally talk more about this as we get through it. But I think this will be a helpful tool to start visualizing what these meetings will be like. So I've got it in front of me, and I'm just going to sort of work down it. But someone will be the host. You've likely been the point person who's set up the meeting. You've got an idea of which role everyone is planning on taking, and you're able to prompt someone if they momentarily lose their focus. We have a couple people, depending on how many people are in the meeting, share a personal story. Why is it that we're in the room today? I doubt any of you guys woke up one day and knew that campaign finance reform and this 28th Amendment was something you had to spend your time on. I'm sure, it was multiple issues that sort of funneled you to here. That's a great way to humanize ourselves as we're meeting with members of Congress who we haven't met before and are maybe coming from different political spaces. And then just as we were talking about, a thank you for something that they've done, even if it's just having a meeting with us. Ideally there's something we can find. Maybe MacArthur has some experience on a small business council or something. Thank you for representing and fighting for the best interests of small businesses in our community. And small businesses is also a good entry point, a conservative entry point to this issue, because if corporations have too much power, small businesses suffer. That's something that is sort of easily understandable, and I think a good point that can be made. Someone, maybe one or two people, depending again on how many people will be in the meeting, will think of leading questions that we can ask in order to shed light on, where exactly our member of Congress currently stands on the issue. So, if it's a Republican who's not yet supportive like MacArthur, what are your thoughts on the notion that money is speech? It would be very good if you could explain that to us. I'm genuinely curious. If you could do anything to lessen the influence of money in politics, what would you do? What does the statement "draining the swamp" mean to you? I think that's a particularly good one.
Yes.
So for Norcross, he's pretty much a champion of this. He's a co-sponsor of the major existing bills. And I think, the conversation will be a little bit different. I anticipate he'll sign the pledge and want to be an ally. And the really thing he can do of most value is to talk with his Republican colleagues. We're going to ask him if he has any particularly good working relationships with any of his Republican colleagues. The group in southern New Jersey right now has just secured a meeting with Frank Lobiondo, a moderate Republican congressman down there. They've got a meeting with him on August 29th. So we're prepping them very hard on this because it has the potential to be a really big breakthrough. And, I'm pretty curious as to what Norcross's relationship is with Lobiondo. They're not too far away. I'm sure they know each other well. So I think we could ask him specifically about Lobiondo. This could be a really neat way that you guys could be working together. And I think,
if I'm not mistaken, Azor, I think when I was talking to Mary, because I mentioned to Mary Cruz, the district, his manager, about bringing on a Republican colleague, and I think that she did say that he has a decent relationship with him. So that really may be an avenue that we can explore.
That's phenomenal. Yeah, that is the potential to really work out. Lobiondo he's the kind of Republican that would be, possible to bring on board. He's, outspoken on climate change. He's in a safe district. He's very much a moderate, sort of traditional conservative. He's been around since the mid-90s when this actually was a bipartisan issue at the elected official level. So, then based on what they say to whatever question we asked. I think it would be good to have someone who's prepared, sort of mapped out in their head what they might say, and being able to contextualize this issue, once they've answered our questions, and sort of reframe this as why, this is an issue that they should care about based on what we've just heard. And maybe, this is where we'd be able to flush out some more background information. We could cite some polls here, provide some historical evidence as well. And this person's job is really priming the meeting for the person to lay out the request. Is the request, can you please work with your fellow Republican colleagues? This movement isn't going to go anywhere if we have, all Democratic co-sponsors with the lone exception. Or is it, what will you be able to, further this conversation with us? Historically, this has been a bipartisan issue. We know you're in a difficult position as a Republican, and there's only one Republican co-sponsor. What can we do to make your life easier if this is something you do support? How can we help? And is that something that we could continue talking about? So, do you guys have any questions quickly on this before we, do some quick practice?
Well, what would you say to a man who's spent $5 million of his own money on his campaign and is probably the richest member of the New Jersey delegation?
The richest man in Congress.
And possibly the richest man in,
Really?
richest man
Yes.
in Congress.
Can you hear Azer?
Yeah, so the question is, how do you convey this to a man who's self-funded, right?
And not be threatening to him.
Well, you could ask him how much his opponent spent. Maybe, if this 28th Amendment.
It's a lot, even less.
But,
a lot less,
but he could be facing Democratic dark money coming in against
that's
him.
true.
Yeah.
I mean, he didn't build his fortune to run on campaigns.
Give it away, too.
So
maybe that's worth bringing up to him. How much money do you want to spend the next time?
That's true, because
exactly.
people who
I'm
have a lot
thinking,
of money
this is
don't
a
wanna lose
business
it.
savvy decision. You
Once
have
you
to
start an
spend
arms
less
race,
money
you
if
have to
there's
finish it.
less money coming in.
Well, what about also, I suppose that the South Jersey chapter has some positive result with Lobiondo. Maybe Lobiondo can be brought to the board and connected with MacArthur to try to bridge that gap to Republican to Republican.
Mm-hmm.
But that's a good point.
You guys, this is the
There
exact.
may be Democratic dark money coming in
Right.
at this point.
Right.
to get-
I think
to get
MacArthur.
MacArthur.
Right.
So if he doesn't stand up for this, he
Yeah,
could be facing the same thing that other opponents have
We've
faced,
been working
especially.
very hard to try to make that one of the flip districts that will get lots of
Right,
money and
right.
attention. So anything he can do to reduce hostility would probably appeal to him, because
Mhm.
he's been harassed terribly.
Yes.
So,
By who?
I just, this could appeal to him. You have to realize his real base is Ocean County, and that's an area where we maybe need to be reaching out. But that's his real base, and he speaks in very conservative terms in order to appeal to them. He's doing things like trying to pass all kinds of opening up gun control laws and all this stuff. So the idea of reducing individual liberties and taking away sovereignty, I feel, is the appeal to him.
So that could be
He's not, he just had Donald Trump run a fundraiser for him
Right.
where they raised $800,000.
Right.
So money isn't his issue as much as what will appeal to his concern. He's very big on the military, representing the bases
major
there.
contractor in his district.
So that type of language is the appeal to him.
Yeah, I think, understanding, a handful of sentences we can throw out, that will appeal to this language is going to be important to, just practice and practice a lot. This is an issue historically. The first patriots of this country, the founding fathers, were standing up to a great concentrated power in the British Empire, and they were being taxed from overseas, which was infringing upon their personal sovereignty again. Patriotism is extremely bipartisan, and it's something that conservatives definitely speak fluently. So that's another way we could go about this too.
But I'm thinking that with regard to what I said before about Lo Biondo, is that might help us to actually get the meeting.
Yeah.
Once we get the meeting, then we might be able to bring these things to bear. But that might increase our ability to actually get a meeting with him if we bring in another Republican.
Aren't we now at a point though that the people really are looking for a means to have something to cross the aisle for, and somewhere to meet in between on something. Infrastructure would be good. If we could get them doing something there, but this is something that I think we could wind up being a bridge in even good. Little ways with smaller officials than trying to hit the president with this, but I think it might be something that an angle.
Yeah, that's a good angle, I think.
Be interesting to see if that's such a good angle, but the people who are funding that dark money stuff, they're gonna go, hey, wait a second, our voice has gotten really small. They're not gonna be too happy about us organizing.
Well, if we're going with I don't know. I just thought it might be something that would be like an angle to discuss to bring in.
Because I think the point, if I understand you right, the point that I think might hit home with just about every member of Congress is how their poll numbers are all very low. People are disgusted with Congress because they feel like there's nothing going on but infighting. Here's an opportunity to show that you can reach across the aisle and come to consensus on something that really impacts everyone.
On an issue that 8 out of 10 people are believe in. So
and it frees them up from being slaves to the dark money.
That's right. I think really that's why I'm a little questioning the whole concept of worrying about Democratic dark money to talk them into because we want to get rid of all the dark money.
Right.
But I think this is a great approach because they know that people are disgusted with all this infighting as much as they tried to push it in the back of their minds. We're giving them an opportunity to show that they can,
even in publicly, they get on the news or something where you're actually talking about something in common that we have in common.
Absolutely.
Get Republican and Democrat
and those same people, those same 80% of the people that are in favor of this are the same people that are giving them lousy poll numbers. Here's a chance to raise your poll numbers by showing that you can reach across the aisle.
What do you think about that,
I think this is great. And the bottom line in this, in converting or in bringing Republicans on board, is convincing them, persuading them that it's going to be more politically advantageous for them to support this than it is not. That we as, the citizens are going to make sure that they're not primaried out of office by, their big donors who won't hesitate to potentially run someone against them who would not work with a group like us. And, we're going to do that by, one, showing up, being present, being knowledgeable, being able to talk clearly and coherently on this issue. 2, just be persuasive with our rhetoric, appeal to, their actual conservative values, and, try to plant the idea of, this is something that legacies are crafted over. This is, there's a great deal of respect for staunch, principled conservatives, and the people don't like corporatist, I guess we won't use that word exactly, but, people are fed up with members of Congress from both sides of the party, and you know, this is an issue, like you guys said, that the majority of Americans strongly agree on. So, yeah, I mean, the end goal is we have to be more persuasive than the big money, which is a tall task, but it's something that can be done.
You know, if you talk about it in a business context, businesses know that they're vulnerable if too much of their revenue is from a few really big customers. And they're much less vulnerable if they've got their revenue spread out over over a lot of customers, so that if one customer pulls their money out, they're not going to go down the drain. Similar thing with voters, and with where if you've got you know, there's a vulnerability to be dependent on large donors.
Yeah. Yeah.
Aside from the fact that philosophically it's messed up.
Does anyone here have an idea of what they might be able to say, you know, in between 30 seconds and a minute, you know, a persuasive personal story that you'd feel comfortable sharing to, say, a MacArthur on why you're here in the room today?
I don't have a personal story. I could probably develop one, because I think the thing that brought me to American Promise was hearing about these guys like the Adelsons and and just getting really mad and going, well, what am I, you know, how do they get to decide? I could probably do a little research and come up with some examples and say, this just seems so not right. So it's not a personal story that I have like right from here, but it's stuff that I read in the news that just seems so unfair.
Yeah.
One thing that I would really love to see, and I'm looking at the American Promise website on my phone, so I may not be getting the full experience, but what I have trouble with is, like Joan just said, articulating like facts and figures to show. So you've got good percentage numbers about how many Americans agree that this needs to be done, but what I don't know is like, okay, what was it like before Citizens United? So is there a graph that shows before Citizens United, this was the amount of money, and now it's here, and who's it from, and like just numbers and stuff, and to really, because like, if you just want people like our co-workers,
well,
you know,
Kristen, remember from the launch when Ben showed the graphic, and we can get, maybe we can get a copy of the graphic, is our, how it's like 3%, 3 families.
It was the small percentage was responsible for the majority
70% of the money or something like that.
I think the change is like a key thing that didn't happen.
The trend,
I just don't
in other
remember,
words,
but just
right.
like where,
over time, the change over time.
To demonstrate that turning point, because you know, how do you prove like, okay, this amendment needs to happen to get rid of this decision because this decision has resulted in this change in how things are financed.
I think that graphic did a great job of that.
And what was the number? There was an absolute number that you couldn't give as an individual more than X amount of dollars to a campaign before this all happened. There was a specific number, and it was like $2,000 or $4,000. It wasn't a big number.
It has to do with if you give it to a 501.
Yeah, on my end, you guys, I can pull together some of these figures and graphics, which definitely do exist, and I can get those sent around before our next meeting. Definitely. Thanks for bringing that up. That would be very useful to bring up in a meeting.
Yeah, I've been trying to read some of the posts on the AP Connect, like the online community, and some of it's way above my head, and I'm never going to be, I don't have the brain capacity to become an expert like I think a lot of those people on there are, so we need something for like the in-between people who want more details, because like my family, if I say we got to get campaign money, they'll say, okay, I'll vote for an amendment, sure, but like we're people that need to turn over.
But if it's over your head, then it's probably something we don't want to present anyway. We want to present something really simple and straightforward.
I was going to say, I think we need to talk more about process, because we're not going to walk into a first meeting, say, hi, Tom MacArthur, will you please back an amendment to stop Citizens United? And he's going to say yes. So there's got to be other ways to keep bringing it to his attention? Do we write
process.
letters to editors? What are the other tools that we'll be using besides one meeting? Or how often do you have meetings? Or what do you bring to different meetings? Because you're certainly not going to just get agreement because you showed up at his office.
Mm-hmm.
Is that further meetings
point.
for us? But
So in other words, you're saying we have something outlined here for a first meeting.
Right.
How does that fit into what happens after that?
Right.
And
What typically happens?
Yes.
Because I would assume that most congressmen are not saying, "Oh, sure, that's a great idea. I'll do it tomorrow."
Yeah, because it took these guys 2 years.
You're right about
and
that,
other
yeah.
story.
Yes.
I have a question.
But
go ahead.
Is there one
Yes.
you answer that first, and then unless it doesn't
Yeah.
pertain to that?
No, that's a
sure.
great question,
Well, there was
and you're exactly right. This is the start of a relationship, and we're gonna have follow-up meetings, and we're gonna,
Yes, 'cause this was a 2-year
ideally
process.
work incrementally and progress each time. And
Right.
absolutely, in the meantime, letters to the editor are an accessible, extremely effective way to stay involved and to continue to demonstrate that this is an issue that people care about, and this is an issue that the facts dictate, is of great importance. In the same vein, writing direct letters to these members of Congress. We've got action sheets on our end, which if you don't already have, I can send along. I know you guys have the August action sheet. It's got the laser talk included, and it sort of goes by step, how you can write a 300-word letter to the editor with no problem at all. So I'm curious.
Is all that on AP Connect?
Say that again?
Is that all on AP Connect, the August action? I'm sorry, I've just had such a hectic couple of weeks. I haven't got.
The August action is the one that I emailed to everybody saying that the laser talk was on there, but it's there. And isn't there on American Promise, isn't on the regular American Promise, there's a download about writing an op-ed, writing a letter to the editor, I believe?
Yeah, absolutely, there is. And even right after I get off this call, I can just go ahead and forward you all of these documents.
That helps me because I'm juggling like so much stuff with work and everything.
Yeah,
that
let me do that. I can forward you and label them clearly what each one is.
But like you were saying about over the head and all that, I have found like when I'm trying to explain things to people, that saying it to different people and trying to explain it, you learn to get your voice and you learn what people understand. And I'm struggling with this because I was explaining to my boss, trying to explain what I was going to a meeting for, and he doesn't even know about Citizens United. So you just have to go. I didn't even know where to go backwards to, and like you were saying on the graph. So I just so that's what I wanted to say.
Right. I mean, I think as we're getting ready to do this, we probably should have, like they were talking about a breakfast meeting before. We should probably sit.
It will take more than one meeting.
Yeah. I'm not saying
we can learn to talk to tell
but I mean,
each
it
other.
could be subgroups of us meeting at a coffee shop or someplace informal on a Saturday or a Sunday and just kind of practice it or somebody's house.
Hash it out.
And just because you're right. It's nothing. It will be improvising then, and it'll sound improvisational later, but it will be practiced improvisation.
But I think
and we'll internalize the data to the point where where we've got ownership of it.
But I really think that you're right. You went, people don't know about Citizens United, and there are a lot of people that do not. And what about like targeting like Twitter? I'm on Twitter a lot.
Me too.
And like hitting Twitter up with like about the Citizens United. What is it? So that when we go in to say we don't like it, and about
really know what it is.
Really, why not do that?
So, Azar, I don't want to steal your thunder. You're going to answer the question about the process for whether things we're going to
Sorry.
do. In terms of like for MacArthur or for any or any Congress person that you're approaching?
Yeah, so I think I touched on it. We're going to be active in writing letters to the editor. We're going to be active in writing letters directly to our members of Congress.
Petitions.
And then, petitions. We're going to, get as many, candidate pledges signed as we can. Those don't always have to be federal officials. We can, if we know, that there's a city council race going on, that's absolutely something we can take to them. We're going to be actively growing our group and spreading awareness for these issues with, you know, events like the League of Women Voters event on September 24th in Camden, doing a lot of the outreach you guys were talking about at the start of the meeting. So, you know, that's going to sort of make up this multifaceted process, all building momentum for the eventual goal. I hope that answers the question.
Probably some tabling. You know, there's all going to be all kinds of fall festival kind of things. We could do some. Idea. There's going to be, obviously, you're going to need to get out the vote stuff and voter registration stuff. But we could do some tabling about about American Promise, about a 28th Amendment.
United?
Right.
Well, at some point, then we have to put down. We have to create a calendar of what's there.
Right. Well, we have to get through the training.
Yes.
Yes. We're on number 2 here. Get through the training and have these different things, and then move forward.
And I think something that a lot of people forget, because I don't think it received the type of press that it really deserves, is that in 2012, New Jersey, you know, New Jersey's one of the 19 states which has called on Congress to, you know, introduce this 28th Amendment. This was back in 2012, and a resolution, you know, AR 86 passed through the Assembly in October. SR 47 passed through the state Senate in October as well. Yeah.
Then why are we doing this?
And you know, I'll send you the link. I'm on unitedforthepeople.org. You've probably heard me say this website before, but it's a really good resource with
Say that again.
It's on the when it says, what do these amendments actually say? If you go to the second, there's one line, and then all underlined. All of this information is found at unitedforthepeople.org.
Okay.
Yeah, so I've got that pulled up right now, and it says, you know, together these, you know, the SR 47 bill in the Senate and AR 86 in the Assembly, together they opposed Citizens United and called for a constitutional amendment to provide that with regard to campaign spending by corporations. The First Amendment's free speech guarantee protects only natural persons. So, you know, this happened back in 2012, and I think a lot of people have no idea, but it's a foundational place to start if you're explaining, you know, some of the recent history of this movement, and you know, specifically to New Jersey.
Who worked
I think
on
it's a
that
good
for
thing
New
to
Jersey?
be aware of.
Who took the lead for that for New Jersey?
I don't think Loretta was asking who took the lead for that for New Jersy. I haven't looked.
It might have been
Greenwald.
The assembly member was Herb Conaway Jr.
Oh my God! He's from Burlington County.
Oh,
He's
that's
my
good.
guy.
Oh. All right.
I'm making. Okay.
There's an ally.
A thank you letter goes to him.
And who was in the Senate?
The senator was Jeff Van Drew. First County.
Well, it's nice to know our state's so progressive. It's a great intro to
the
friends and
Assembly is
family too,
Democrat.
by saying, did you know that?
And so I think I heard down the table somewhere, well, why are we doing this? The New Jersey already passed a resolution. So remember the two arms of it are that the resolutions have to pass the House and the Senate by 2/3 votes for it then to be sent to the states. And then 3/4 of the states have to ratify it. So if there are already state resolutions on board to support it, then the likelihood that those states are going to go ahead and ratify it are much higher. So it's working on both ends of the amendment process at the same time, so that when you finally get it through federally, you can just push it through on the state.
So our major goal should be convincing voters or convincing legislators? We're
federal legislators.
The eventual goal is convincing federal legislators, and we often do that by convincing other voters, convincing, you know, city councils,
There's the
municipal
push strategy
councils,
and the pull strategy.
but yeah, it's all building up to, you know, the federal officials.
Yeah. And then also, what they said at on the leader call the other day is the reason why the candidate pledges are helpful is that, remember, a lot of these people start somewhere in the state elected positions before they get to the federal elected positions. And this is probably, I think from what I saw, like maybe, hopefully less than this, but a 6 to 7 year progress before maybe hopefully the amendment would get passed. So if you're already talking on candidate pledges to the people who are running for the state offices, they have it in their mind, they're on board for it, and then as they move along you can follow up with them, and then if they do wind up in the federal positions, then you already have them on board to say, yep, I'm in for that. And
Awesome.
And that's why they were talking in the leader call about even at the municipal level and at the county level, getting people on board, because in the long run, it's a marathon. It's not a sprint, like you say.
Absolutely.
And you want, so it's a long-term investment of time. And
great. Do you guys want to pivot quickly and talk about letters to the editor specifically? I'm glad it was brought up because not all of our time is going to be spent waiting around for meetings to materialize. We're going to do what we can and we're going to get them, but we'll have some time in the meantime, and letters to the editor are a great way to keep that momentum. I'm curious, going back to our first meeting, if someone was assigned to be on the lookout for relevant local news stories, which could easily be tied back to this work.
We did not talk about that, Azra.
Okay, yeah, let's talk about that now, because it's useful to have, one person or maybe two people who, want to take on the responsibility of just being on the lookout for local news stories that we could relate, this 28th Amendment work towards. That's often going to be, reason to publish a letter to the editor that's written and submitted by one of you guys. Is there someone who feels like taking that on?
well, I think since Marie's on board, or following up with Norcross, I think I could work on that. Because I was.
How about we let somebody else?
Well, I've got nothing right now. I got nothing, so that's fine. Somebody else.
Yeah, but you're doing that. You and I are kind of coordinating the meetings. Like, let some people.
There's definitely several papers too.
Absolutely.
I get the New York Times, but I don't get any.
Right. I think we're talking local news stories.
I unvolunteer.
Does anybody get the Burlington County Times?
I get the Courier Post.
The Courier.
I would
well, how about if we have
volunteer,
people for
but
certain?
I need an idea of what are the local news stories that I
for
could do.
certain
Like, I'm very
papers.
comfortable writing a letter to the editor, but give me an idea of what would be like a local news story where I could use an entry point, because that's where I'm like to tie it in.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so there might be a story that a long-time local business can't compete anymore with the big box office store, which has been, newly established, and we could, make the small business connection. And, not all the times, even to have a letter to the editor published, do we need this anecdotal lead-in. I'd encourage you guys, if you haven't, to check out, even on the American Promise Facebook page, I just posted a link to a letter to the editor that a woman in a newly formed Naperville, Illinois APA had published. And it didn't have an anecdotal lead in. It was pretty generic. It was saying, I don't think that, big money interests, that the billionaire class who seems to have, bought our public officials from both sides of the aisle has my best interest in mind. And I just want to write this on behalf of my fellow citizens to say that I think we need to be clear on whose side we're all on and what force we're fighting against. And it's not, the opposing party, but it's this influx of dark money and big money corrupting our elected officials. So that could be a good reference point to see, one letter to the editor, which was recently published in a small paper.
I was going to say, because I have a group that writes letters to the editor, if you write Courier, Burlington County Times, they publish almost everything.
Oh, nice.
Oh, yeah.
Great.
So just write once a week. And now sometimes it'll take 4 weeks and your letter will suddenly appear because they don't have enough letters.
Yeah.
But and a lot of times if you write to the Burlington County Times, they'll publish in the Asbury Park Press.
Because
So
they're in the
related?
same,
Great.
they're in the same conglomeration.
So,
of-
yeah.
August is probably
Nice
a
to
good
have an
time
in
because
of
there-
info.
not as many people are writing
So
in.
It gives us
if-
courage.
If we have
Encouragement.
types of letters or you want to write, just send them. And you send it via email. It's real easy.
Right.
So-
Yeah, I have experience doing it. I have no problem doing it. I was just curious about that, like, local lead-in anecdotal things. I just tended to,
And what other
This is my
papers,
I'm not a
So
writer,
I read
but
the
that's
Courier
one of my
too.
goals.
Inquirer, I can't volunteer to do this because it takes me, I only get the Sunday Inquirer and it takes me an entire week to
Yeah.
even read it.
That's
But
fine.
I get a daily digital version, which I end up deleting every day because I don't
Yeah,
even have time to do
'cause you don't
that.
have
So
time.
if someone wants to volunteer, I can forward you my digital Inquirer
I
every
get an
day.
Inquirer every day.
Okay.
I get it delivered, so
Okay.
I can
And-
read the
and
Inquirer.
I get New
Suzanne-
York Times.
you get the New York Times, Suzanne,
All right,
New
so
York
we've got
Times,
Suzanne, New York Times.
and Barb, you gonna do the Inquirer?
Inquirer.
And I think we shouldn't forget, I don't think they get as much readership, but, NewJersey.com and New Jersey Spotlight, I've been looking at, in the last couple months, a fair amount to kind of monitor what's going on in New Jersey. So, Dana, are you interested in, I don't know if you follow either one of those, but.
No, I've never.
NewJersey.com and New Jersey Spotlight are, actually, New Jersey Spotlight, I think, is the one that's public. It's like it's more of an NPR style public, rather, and NewJersey.com, I think, is like Philly.com. It's
So
sort of.
these are all digital,
But they're
right?
digital, only
So
digital.
Do you set up, do you have like a alerting thing, or you just proactively go
I
on
just
them?
review through it. I mean, they don't have as many articles. It's not like a whole paper like the Inquirer is or the Courier is.
But they'll publish
if you go
letters.
on it a couple times a week, you could kind of scroll through and see if there's something of interest, like a New Jersey-based something that wouldn't just be local
Okay,
to.
I'll do
But
Spotlight.
if that's a
Camden.
New Jersey-based, if there's a New
And it's no,
Jersey-based.
you don't have to pay for a membership.
Oh, that's
Right.
what that,
So, but do they, is that to get possible hooks, or do they
Yeah.
also publish letters?
They,
So you write
they
to them.
also, you can
Okay.
write opinions and put them on there. And
Okay.
another place we can put opinions would be on Patch, patch.com, if any of you, through AOL. It's not, it's not like getting something in the Inquirer, but it's someplace else to
So
get
Suzanne,
something
Barb, and
out
Dana.
there.
and even Facebook.
Well, yeah, sure.
And when we
Yeah,
write these
pantsuit
things, we
nature.
write these as ourselves or ourselves
everything
as
we put, we
representative
should
of American
copy.
Promise.
What's your suggestion, Azar?
Say that one more time.
When we write these things and submit these things, do we submit it as an individual
Oh, yeah.
citizen, or or a member of American Promise?
It's totally up to you. I mean, it's going to be submitted under your name, and you can introduce yourself however way you like. I know the woman in Naperville, what she did was she said, I'm, Sheila Servino. I'm a member of the newly formed Naperville American Promise Association. We're fighting for a 28th Amendment to return the government to the people, not profit. She said something along those lines, and then she went into her spiel. But, it'd be up to you. But I mean, I think it's a good way to get some publicity for your group.
Yeah, I think it's good to include it, unless for some reason you feel uncomfortable doing it.
Chris?
Do we have
Yeah.
an email address for the chapter? Because some of the Inquirer letters to the editor, the writer,
Oh,
it has
right.
an email address listed. So
Right,
instead
right,
of your
right.
own personal,
Right.
or not, I mean,
Yeah,
you
we
can say
could-
nothing, I'm sure.
No, we could do that.
Do we have a group
You know what?
one?
I forgot if I set one up on Gmail or not. I'll check if I did or I
Alright.
didn't.
I mean,
That's a good idea.
if you want to list it, and then if someone's really blown away by the letter, they can.
Yeah, because I think I'm not that familiar with Google. Do you know, Azar, if you're not a member of a Google group, can you email something to the Google group and have it get received, or do you have to be a member of the group?
Yeah, I think you have to be.
I think you have to be a
Yeah,
member.
you have to be a member.
I think you might have to request membership
Yeah.
first.
Okay, yeah, that's not going to work. Then we really should have just an email.
Yeah, because actually, if we make cards, we want to have that email on the card.
The Inquirer.
I'm sorry, I'm hearing two things.
Well, I mean, it might be good that if someone wanted to print it, as a way for people to reach out. How else do they find us? You know, to get involved. But yeah, you don't have to. Like if you just want to sign your name,
have it on
that
a card.
If we created those business cards with our name on it and
We
had
should have an
that email address
contact
on every card.
Mm-hmm.
And we should have that if we have the Facebook site. There should always be an email to reach the main group.
What's, yeah, I'm sorry. No, go ahead. What is the?
I was gonna say, when you write a letter to the Inquirer,
Yeah.
you write it on your email so that they can contact you to see if you want to print it, and then you give them permission whether or not to print your email, so that people might respond to you via your
So if you're,
email.
so they will not let you pick a different email to display with your name.
I don't know. I don't
They should
know.
be
It would probably not, because that would make them suspicious of who's actually writing.
That's fine.
And
Yeah,
So
either
what
way,
you
it
could
may
do
have valid
instead
for the other
is
use of-
if you don't want your email to be in the letter
say
and you
no.
don't,
You
and
just-
then
But
you
what
could just
we
put
could
the
do-
American Promise URL
But what we could
for the
do
website.
is if we get,
The
if we
Tri-County-
get, like, I can get something Tri-County something,
Yes.
then what we could do is include that.
Yes.
Is, you know, for comments, Tri-County, at Gmail,
Right.
and have it in the body of the,
Because you're already saying if you say you're
Right.
part of that group.
That's right, it could be in the body and also a link to the overall website for people who wanted to pursue more information.
does that work?
Yeah.
Okay. Barb, do you have a
Great.
You have a-
So I'm just getting the email ready to send out to you, you guys, of the attachments for the action sheets, writing letters to members of the House, members of the Senate, and letters to the editor. You know, the action sheets, you know, you don't have to go by them rigidly. Some of them will have instructions that might not relate specifically to what you want to write about, but I hope they'll be a useful framework and skeleton
And you're
for
sending
these
that to the
actions.
Google group, Cesar?
Yeah, I can
Okay.
do that.
That way it'll go to everybody.
Yeah, that way everybody will get it.
Great. Cool.
I need a lesson on the Google groups.
Well, so far all I know is everything that gets sent to them gets sent to my email, so I haven't
Yeah.
bothered with it directly.
I used to do that with my permaculture group, and I could never get into it. Then I realized I had to use a Gmail. And
No, you don't have to
You
now.
don't have to,
You
but-
don't have
Well,
to
that's
now.
changed.
Yeah, it's
Yeah, they've
changed.
changed it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Some areas I feel so incompetent, it drives me nuts.
Great. Well, you guys, I've pretty much gone through what I had planned to talk with on my end. Is there anything else you want to bring up right now, or should we recap sort of what we've done?
Well, I have a question, you know, with the groups and everything, you guys talk amongst yourselves. Are you guys pretty excited about, you know, how many groups are forming around the United States? Is that something?
Yeah. The tone in the office is definitely excited and overworked. We're bringing in a new staff member next month, which I'll be very happy for.
Oh, good.
But you know, it's a hustling, bustling place. Everyone's active, everyone's productive, and yeah, the mood is definitely upbeat.
That's great.
Excellent.
Thanks to you guys. Thank you.
Isra, can I ask you a question? So currently there are, is it 19 or 20 state resolutions that have been passed? Which
19.
19, and I think in the email that was sent last week, I think Vicki Barnes was the author of it. Is it there are 16 more that are being worked on at some point of the process?
I think the number is 17. Yeah.
17? Okay, cool. Wow. Then that's like 2 away from. I mean, they have to be passed, but that's 2 away from the number of states to have the amendment ratified.
I mean, do we need 38?
38.
Nice.
Yes. So right now, you guys, there's one in Pennsylvania that was just introduced. There's a resolution in their state house to do this, to make Pennsylvania the 20th state. And I wanted to talk to you guys about an event that's happening. I know that, Marie, you've shared the event page on Facebook, but it's happening next Tuesday. It's in Philadelphia. Jeff
yes.
Clements is going to be there. Judy Wicks is going to be there, and Ben Cohen of Ben and Jerry's. They're going to all speak, as well as 5 members of the Pennsylvania state legislature are going to be there and speak briefly as well. If that's something
What's the time?
that you guys are interested in. It's from 7 to 9 at the Philadelphia Brewing Company. There's going to be drinks and ice cream. It's free and open to the public.
That's in Center. What's the address?
It's in Fishtown.
Yeah.
Pull it up for.
And Judy Wicks is a local legend.
Okay, wow.
She started the White Dog Cafe. She's been an activist since the 80s, and she's written some books. She was having her book sold at the Citizens Climate Lobby. I think she's got some involvement there too.
Wow.
So I can't go, but I would absolutely recommend it if anybody is able to get there.
And I'm in Hilton Head next week, so I was very disappointed to have to miss it. It looks good.
Yeah, well, make it if you can, you guys. I'll be down there with Jeff.
I don't know how could go.
Two people on the Facebook post, I forget who it was, I don't remember, but 2 people had said they were interested. I don't know if they actually committed to going or not.
So whoever goes, we could talk about it next week.
Yeah. What kind of time is it to get from like around here to where that location is? Half an hour.
To Fishtown?
On Tuesday? Yeah. I might be able to do it. Yeah, I work
Oh,
till
that'd be
6.
great. So possibly Liz and Cindy.
Yeah.
Yeah, we'll have to.
Yeah.
Hopefully they'll fall.
Okay, good.
Okay.
Let me give you.
Cool, yeah, so there's a Facebook event online that has the address and everything. But yeah, 7 to 9. It's going to be a pretty big event.
Not everybody is on Facebook, so what I can do is I can, I think I can copy it. I can just do a screenshot and send it out in an email.
Perfect.
These people are just amazing.
Great. Does anyone else have any more general questions before we do a quick recap of what we've done here?
I don't think so.
Great.
What about the cards? You want to ask about the cards?
So we talked a lot about specific.
Getting cards done. Yeah.
I'm sorry. There was a little discussion before we got on with you about whether it would be advisable to, or do you have a template for a business card, with the logo that we could.
So we could edit with our own names and leave them with members of Congress. It would have your guys' name or maybe our Tri-County email address and our individual names. So we'd each have a few that we could drop off. Has any other chapters?
That's a good idea. I bet Ben has a business card. They haven't given me business cards yet, but I can take a picture and send one to you guys.
That's too funny.
That's on my short list of things to gripe about, I guess.
I guess the thing is to find out if there's an easy template that we can edit with our individual names and then just get some small amounts of copies.
Yeah,
that's what he just said.
It's a good way for you to broach it with the
I think it's pretty minimalistic. It's just the AP logo and name and address, but I'll send you a picture.
Okay.
Because I know they exist.
Thanks for reminding.
I am off at 2:30 on the 22nd, so I'm going to plan to go.
Good.
Great.
All right, so I think we're ready for a review.
Great. So we went through the reading, talked about why it's important to, come to meetings and to this work with an open mind. And then we spent a great deal of time talking about the roles for these meetings that we're preparing with our members of Congress, what these roles could potentially be, and how our strategy is going to differ depending on if we're in the room with a supportive Democrat, a non-supportive Democrat, a non-supportive Republican, or a, very close to supportive Republican. Talked about how we might be able to coordinate with the South Jersey group and being, in the loop with how their meeting with Congressman Lobiondo goes. In the ideal world, being able to leverage a great meeting on their end and a great relationship with him on their end into a foot in the door with MacArthur on our end. The potential for you two groups to work together, I think, is there. And that's, sort of why, sort of this structure's, best potential in action. It's fantastic to have multiple groups working so closely with different members of Congress. So that has the potential to be really great. And then we talked about specifically what we can be doing in the meantime in between these meetings to continue to drum up support. We had a productive conversation on letters to the editors, the purpose of those, and I'm going to send you guys the action sheets for writing letters to the editors, letters to our members of the House, and letters to our members of the Senate. And I think it would be good before we go to see what kind of responsibilities people feel like taking on between now and our next meeting, which I believe is 2 weeks from today.
Actually, it's supposed to be next week.
Perfect, even better.
Yeah.
And actually, who can make it to that meeting? Who's here
What
right
day
now?
is it?
Next Thursday.
Yeah.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Okay.
think I can.
And I cannot tell. Okay. Because I know that Rachel's away. I'm definitely away.
Do you know anybody else who's not here what their status is?
Other than Rachel not being around and me not being around.
Okay. So I'll run the meeting next week.
Yeah, we'll talk about that.
I'm gonna be here.
Yeah,
Oh,
normally we were gonna have it every 2 weeks, but because of that Phil Murphy.
Because of
we
Phil
switched
Murphy
it to
week,
2 weeks.
right,
ago.
got it too, yeah.
And
We
then
I
next-
got all worried,
Yes.
because I didn't wanna miss it.
the library.
And then the next,
We have, yes, and
Oh.
Marie put them down here at the bottom of the
and then the one
agenda.
after that is
Okay.
the 7th of September. Azer.
I don't have my schedule.
That's the fourth
But
one.
it's on the agenda.
Yeah.
Yeah, it gives me enough time
Cool.
to
Thankfully, it's
maneuver
Matt
things.
Laurel, real convenient.
Yeah.
I guess for most of us anyhow.
It's nice to get to know the libraries in our area.
Yes.
Yeah. And all the back roads.
This is my first time in this one.
Me too.
Yeah.
So,
Drove right past it.
so you
So I'm
want
thinking,
go ahead.
so I'm thinking specifically for letters to the editor, does anyone want to, commit to the responsibility of at least drafting a letter to the editor to one of these outlets we talked about to bring to our meeting next week? Maybe we could, read it out loud, or if you're really feeling like it, go ahead and submit it. Let's get this, let's
I heard
get
2 people.
conversations with the editors started.
I wrote down 4 people who I think said that they were going to. Cindy.
Well, what we asked was, would you
Fine.
monitor the
Right.
Oh, that's right, that's
Yeah.
right, that's right,
Monitor.
sorry about that.
Yeah.
Okay,
I
don't know.
Yeah.
okay.
I could try.
Okay, so.
Okay, Cindy said she's willing to try.
Cindy will draft a letter. Anybody else?
I will eventually, but I'm not a writer, so I have to
Yeah.
see what one looks like.
Okay.
But that's my goal because it's out of my
I'll bring
box.
something. It
Yeah,
may not be
And I
very
try to
complete.
challenge myself
Now,
with
Azer,
writing.
I have a question. Is it possible
Yes.
for me, and I think I saw that, is it possible, will it be possible for me to, can you do a group call with Skype is what my question is, basically.
In other words, if she's in
Can
Hilton Head,
if I'm in
can she
Hilton Head,
Skype in
can I
somehow?
Skype in with the group?
They
I
were
don't think
supposed
you
to.
can do it through Skype. What I've been doing with the group in Naperville is we've been using a website called WebEx,
Okay.
which seems to work great, and we're using it just for that reason. We've had 3 people on the call. We had 4 people video chatting
How
in,
many different locations?
from different places.
Oh, so some of them were even
there's-
from, so it wasn't just it was not just a bifurcated thing here. You brought other locations in.
Yeah,
'Cause the
yeah,
other-
it allows to split it pretty easily.
The other thing I thought of is that I could, possibly do FaceTime via, somebody's iPhone, so that I can, because I'm only interested in hearing, and then you could just stay with Skype. I'll have to talk to Jen, actually I have to talk to the group about who's gonna be able to
Right.
coordinate this part of it, because
Technology.
it's my speaker and my laptop, which, the speaker I can leave with somebody, but the laptop I cannot, so, we'll
Oh,
figure
yeah.
that out, we'll contact you about that.
Okay.
Azer, can I ask you about Zoom? Have you guys looked at Zoom yet? And is there a fee for
Um,
that?
I've never used Zoom, but I know it's something that is very much on Ben's mind, because we're thinking of using Zoom next month for a big action we're planning around the 230th anniversary of the Constitution,
Ooh,
September
wow.
17th of next month. So you'll definitely be hearing about that later, but Zoom, as I understand it, is a great tool,
Yeah,
and similar to WebEx, can split screens.
Okay, I didn't know if you guys already had like had signed up for that, and I don't know if there's a fee involved, but I do use it for another conference that I'm on about every 2 weeks. So,
Okay.
but
And you
I
say
have
it
nothing
splits,
to do with
it splits the screen so that
It
theoretically.
splits the screen with however many people are there.
Wow.
So everybody's real tiny sometimes.
Yeah,
and
right.
if one person's talking, then that picture, it just
Opens
knows,
up.
it can hear that microphone, and
Yeah.
that picture opens up.
Oh,
It's
neat.
really cool, really cool. But I like didn't,
It zooms.
you know, I didn't know whether it was like through
That's-
Gmail that
that's
you get it for
amazing.
free or what. I don't know if you have to
That's
pay for that.
amazing.
Like, I definitely have a WebEx login that we could use if we needed to use WebEx.
So do you
Okay.
think, since Suzanne has a WebEx login, should we say that we'll give that a try for next week and we'll talk?
Yeah.
Let's talk about that after we get off with
Okay.
Azar, because we
But
have to
you
talk
could do
about
that.
laptop and everything.
That would
That
work.
would work
Yep.
with you, okay.
All right.
Okay, cool.
Cool.
So, Cindy, you said letter to the editor. Anybody else want to try for next time?
I'll try one.
Okay.
Suzanne? Okay, cool.
Yes.
Okay.
Great, you guys. And then on my end, I'm going to take a photo of the business card. I'll share it to the Google group. I'm going to work on pulling together some of these figures and graphics, which clearly illustrate the change in campaign spending pre and post Citizens United. And I'll get those action sheets sent out to the Google group as well.
I would like to say something about the business cards. We're
Yes.
asking for something more than a photo. We were hoping there would be a template of some kind. I know they have something like that because they had business cards for everybody at the conference last October.
Mhm.
Okay.
So everybody
That's
had a
something
sheet of business cards.
Oh, wow.
I'll ask some questions about that.
So you were able to have, everybody was
Like you
able,
could just
because they
print it
register
out.
for the conference, to get a sheet of cards with their own name on it?
Right, everybody got a packet and their name was on it.
Wow. Cool.
Okay, that'd be great.
And while we're plugging conferences, I know it's not till next year, but what's the date for the conference next year?
The big national conference?
Yes.
I think it's in June. I think it's mid-June. I don't know exactly.
June 2018?
Yes.
Washington?
Yep, the big National Citizens Leader Conference, the NCLC.
And it'll be Washington again, Azar?
I believe so, yep.
Okay.
Yeah, definitely.
Okay, cool.
It'd be so nice if we had a different president.
Oh, wouldn't
Great,
it?
you guys. That's all I've got on my end.
Thanks, Azar.
Thank you guys. You guys are fantastic. You guys are on top of
Thank
it, and
you.
it really shows.
Things are moving fast.
Thank you.
Have a good
All
night.
right. See you later. You
Thanks,
too.
bye.
Just making your head spin.
It's a lot, it's a lot.
Can I,
Crazy.
It's just so nice to have this group with everything in the world going on.
Yeah,
This
I
is
agree.
like this
I agree.
Yeah.
equilibrium room.
Yeah, and the thing is, like, we're grounded in something that really matters.
Yes.
And it's gonna matter whatever happens with, what's his name?
The ones that are going, I'd be interested, but I'm not positive I can. Who should I contact, whether I am, and are you going
Well,
together next Tuesday?
We'll probably meet up somewhere. Where do you live?
yeah, well, I'm in Belmar, and I hadn't really, depending on what everybody was doing, I thought, well, I could maybe, I work in Conshohocken, so I was thinking, oh, I'll stay at work
so you
late,
would stay there,
and then
yeah.
I'll just go right to Philly. But I could come home first, like, that's not really an issue, like, if we were gonna
parking, do we know? Because I
That
don't
is the
mind.
one, that is the one thing I'm thinking.
I
You're
would
probably
definitely-
gonna-
Parking would be very hard.
It'll be
Parking's
tricky to
hard.
park, yeah.
So
But parking's hard,
Yeah.
but
Can you take a train there, or?
It's the
Fish
brewery
Town?
something? What is that?
Philadelphia Brewery,
It's
yeah.
a restaurant.
A
Because,
restaurant?
yeah,
Do they
I
have
eat in
parking?
Fishtown now and then, and I go
No,
to
they
the
don't.
Fillmore, and it's,
I've walked into somewhere that area and it's kind of
Like if there was a few of us, could we Uber it?
Well, we're,
Yeah.
Well, we have to do
I've never done
You
that
know,
before. I'm game.
I Uber everywhere.
It's
too.
exciting.
By the airport Uber.
Where do you live?
I live Voorhees, but
Let me-
I'm gonna
I'm
be
in
in
Cherry
Deptford
Hill.
at 6 till 6
Can I interrupt everybody for one
Okay,
second?
sorry.
Because when Rachel set up this form, like with everybody's information, and I thought she, like, made it editable by everybody, but apparently not. So I have your information, Dana. I will send. This is my old printout. I'm just going to pass this around. Can you write it? We have emails. We just need legislative districts and phone numbers is what we need on here.
And then I'm gonna take
And
a
then-
picture of it.
And no,
It's
I'll send
done.
it to everybody.
Okay.
I'll send it to everybody.
You can take a picture of it anyway.
Because the emails are on there, so just your
That's fine.
phone, your, I guess,
Everything.
cell number and
So
your
district, I know,
legislative.
and this is gonna sound like crazy to some of you that are like really into the politics forever, but
I
I'm
always
in
forget-
District
I-
1, right
I always
before
mess
in
my
No,
name
Virginia.
that's your congressional district,
Okay.
your legislative district.
I didn't know
That's
that
why.
until
You're in
recently.
Do we know that?
I didn't know that.
I'm at
Right.
6.
I
was thinking backwards.
I was getting very confused. This
I'm
is
fine.
It does get
I'm
very
sure.
confusing.
I know.
Where are you
in Voorhees?
Near the mall.
Okay, and I'm near,
I'm close to
President
too.
Centennial.
I'm near
Every time I get there,
Ashland
something.
Speedline.
Yeah,
walking
And I'm
distance.
near President Centennial, we should carpool.
Yeah, or Uber.
Or
We can Uber it.
But I mean, even to here, we could have carpooled to here.
Nilsa, Cruz
You know, a good place to park is Woodcrest.
Where till 6
Pat Egan,
o'clock?
I have her pen right
I'm
here.
gonna be at
you
work.
go.
I have
Well,
one
does it say it?
at Boscov's
number's not-
Optical.
I know,
And
my people,
I'm done at 6.
it's the
store
number that
closes
gets me.
I close it at
I'm
6
gonna look
o'clock.
up there.
So we can meet there.
So,
and
and
Uber.
remember, so
We
the
can
way,
do whatever.
Or drive.
for the Google groups, if you go to the bottom of any of the emails that comes from Google Groups,